Hello there and welcome to the 740 Zone. I am your host, Jacob Murray, and I will be taking the fans all across Southeast Ohio football this fall. In this upcoming football season, it will be very different than it has been in the past with this pandemic that has been going on, but our team of reporters is there and ready to cover football in the area. And we get started with a bit of a Cinderella story out in the TVC, Ohio. The Wellston Golden Rockets came out of the gates firing and didn't stop under first-year head coach Mike Smith. But losing some key pieces from last year's team, they will look to retool. Reporter Nick Henthorn was out with Wellston Golden Rockets head coach Mike Smith to check up on how they are preparing for this upcoming season.
Face and hands in, drive your damn feet. Ready? Go!
New coaches often struggle in their first years, as it takes time to build a successful program. But for Wellston head coach Mike Smith, his Golden Rockets had greater success in his inaugural season than they'd seen in over a decade. Smith led Wellston to the playoffs for the first time since 2006, and now in year two, he's more comfortable with his surroundings.
Well, one thing we learned as a staff, we got more comfortable with the teams in the conference. Now we know a little bit more about the coaching staffs, what they like to do, what they don't like to do.
The familiarity extends past understanding other teams' schemes. For his players, another off-season has afforded a greater understanding of Smith's concepts and strategies.
Yeah, last year, he's new. Whole new playbook. We had to come in and adjust to it. Now this year, it's just refining the little details and getting better.
As a team, I think we've gotten better as just playing more together. Like last year, we didn't know the playbook all that well. New coach coming in. This year, I feel like we're just clicking on all cylinders.
With the departure of star tailback Rylan Mollahan, Smith's offense will lean a little more on the air game. With former quarterback R.J. Kemp moving to receiver and Chase Ingalls getting back to catching passes after going down with an injury in week 2 of last season, wide receiver is a position group Smith says has improved leaps and bounds since he came to town.
Our receivers, the route running's got so much better. Of course, last year was the first year most of it ever ran routes in this type of offense because they were in a wing T previously. So they've gotten so much better at route running.
Now with the season around the corner, coach and player alike have high expectations for their team.
I feel like this year we're better than last year, and I feel like we should win out our regular season and hopefully make it a couple rounds deep in the playoffs.
Our first goal is, of course, to try and win the conference. Our second goal is to host a home playoff game.
Well, I expect to go and win every game, Go out there and play as hard as we can, and just like we know how to.
Reporting for 740 Zone, I'm Nick Henthorn.
After reaching the playoffs for the first time since 2006, the Golden Rockets will look to get back to that point this upcoming season, but they'll have to get through a tough opponent in the Athens Bulldogs. And I sat down with head coach Nathan White and quarterback Joey Moore to talk about their upcoming season and how they've improved throughout the offseason.
The Athens Bulldogs come into this season with high hopes after winning a share of the TVC Ohio crown last year. But with COVID-19 looming over high school football, it could be tough to keep everyone ready to go. And Coach Nathan White is trying to make it business as usual.
If you're going to prepare for the year, you got to prepare for the year. We can't do anything differently because we might not play. Because if we do and we're not ready, that can't be an option, essentially.
The potent Bulldogs attack is led by senior quarterback Joey Moore, who walked away with first-team All-TVC Ohio honors in only his first year as the starter. But he's been working to get even better.
Just mechanics. Just going with my decision-making skills, just throwing the ball, getting it out quicker, stuff like that.
Joey is bigger and stronger. He committed himself to the weight room this last year, and his body looks different. He's a bigger, stronger kid. Coming into year 2, he's more confident.
One big question for the Bulldogs as they enter this new season is how will they replace key offensive weapons like Nate Trainer and Braden Halbert? Well, coach and quarterback are not too worried about it, and they are key on that next man up mentality.
Nobody's trying to fill Joe Burrow's shoes or Ryan Lerman's shoes or Nate Trainer's shoes. It's here's a new class of kids, and somebody step up and be the guy. And I'm pretty excited about that, honestly.
We have some really athletic receivers this year, really fast guys. Know what they're doing.
With a condensed schedule and mostly division foes that the Bulldogs defeated last year, Coach White doesn't want to look too far ahead.
TVC game, regular game, out-of-conference game, whatever. I assure you that Saturday morning when our staff gets together, we treat none of them differently. We want to go win the dang game the next Friday. And I know the kids feel that way too.
If Joey Moore continues his on-field dominance, then this Bulldogs team will be right back where they have been the last few years, battling for the TVC Ohio crown.
The Bulldogs will look to fight for the TVC Ohio title when they begin their season week 1 against the Alexander Spartans. Speaking of that title, they shared it last year with the Nelsonville-York Buckeyes, and they lost a couple of key pieces on offense. So reporter Brian Kerp went out and talked with Coach Rusty Richards about how they're going to replace 2 big losses for the squad.
After losing 2 offensive playmakers in Mikey Seal and Keegan Wilburn, the Nelsonville-York Buckeyes will be relying heavily on their defense this season to take them to another TVC Ohio title. Nelsonville-York's defense got off to a slow start in 2019. As the season progressed, the defense improved and helped the Buckeyes claim a share of the TVC Ohio title.
Yeah, our defense came a long way. We knocked Athens off there at the end of the year to get a share of the title. If we would have played them week 1 or 2, I don't think we would have had a shot. But our young kids grew up a lot through the year, and they got the experience they needed. And like you said, the second half of the season, our defense became much better. Our offensive line, we actually started getting a run game going instead of having to throw it 80% of the time. So, again, a lot of kids just grew up, and we've seen a big improvement from them same kids in the offseason.
The Buckeyes returned a lot of experience on the defensive side in 2020, including 2 All-State honorable mentions, defensive lineman Christian Wiseman and linebacker Colton Snyder.
I think we're ready. On the defensive side, we brought a lot of people back, and we did pick it up on the last few games, and we came together, and I think we're ready. We come back with the same mentality.
The defense will be tested immediately as the Buckeyes welcome Trimble to Boston Field on Saturday.
Our kids want to Trimble. They've got us the last 2 years, and we feel like it's our turn to end up on the winning side.
Me and Coach talk every day about we got to finish this, we got to finish the job. I've only beat them once in my high school career, which was my freshman year, and lost sophomore and junior. So my senior year going out on top would mean a lot to me.
The Buckeyes will look for these young players to step up as they fight for the TVC Ohio crown this upcoming season. Speaking on younger teams, the Trimble Tomcats lost a lot of key players from their team last year that made the postseason. Reporter Sam Wiestiff went out to Gloucester to check out these new faces in action.
Consistent. That's the word I'd use to describe the Trimble Tomcats over the past couple seasons. But this year, their roster's looking a bit different and they're losing some heavy hitters.
Yeah, we had a really good offensive line. There's not a Connor Wright. There's a big thing, Sawyer Coombs, lead block, and the guys up front. But these guys are coming around each practice, and some of the things I'm telling these backs, I can remember telling Connor Wright when he was a sophomore and freshman, the same thing. So if these guys can develop that way, we'll be in good shape.
The seniors graduating allowed for some familiar faces to step up.
Oh, we got some of our skilled kids returning, but they weren't playing those positions last year. Tabor Lackey was a tight end, and he's our quarterback now. Bryce Downs played a little tailback last year, is more of a receiver. He'll be our tailback, and then our whole offensive line is brand new.
Though the team is fairly new, the Tomcat strategy stays the same.
We're still going to run the wishbone because we've got 3 or 4 300-pounders out there, so we're going to give it a shot.
The new additions to the Tomcats hope to see their hard work pay off.
Yeah, they're excited. I told someone before, the freshmen don't know any different. They're half our team. We're half freshmen. Kids are working hard. We've had almost 100% here every practice. We've got learning experience to start this year, but with only a few seniors, we're just going to get better and better, and then even next year, we should have everyone coming back.
Having such a young team, the Tomcats hope to continue to grow as they look to secure that top spot in the Hawking once again and have a successful playoff run. For the 740 Zone, I'm Sam Wiesnapp.
Those of us who have gotten used to this area of football know that Tomcat pride runs through these players' veins, so it'll be very interesting to see these young guys step up and fill the roles that have been laid before them. Now moving on over to the Waterford Wildcats, have a tough first week matchup against Fort Fry, and reporter Zach Paquette was out there to talk with the coaches and players to see how they're preparing for week 1 and beyond.
One word to describe the Waterford Wildcats: consistent. A frequent playoff team that can always be found in the running for the TVC Hawking Crown is set to kick off their 2020 season, and they'll be relying heavily on their youth and experience from last season.
we had a lot of guys that got a ton of experience last year, so we got most of our defense back. We lost Zane, our all-state quarterback, which will be tough to replace, but our kids are pumped up. They worked extremely hard once we got the okay to go ahead and start lifting again. So these kids are excited and pumped up, and they've been through the ropes, so they're ready.
COVID-19 and a shortened regular season give high school teams lots of distractions, but the Wildcats look to avoid them.
I think we're just sticking the same way. We want to win our games. That's pretty much it. We don't really let it bother us or anything like that. So,
with a shortened season, the Wildcats will be put to the test from the very start, facing off against arch rival Fort Fry in Week 1. Waterford hasn't beaten the Cadets since 2007, but the bad blood between the teams still resides in the Wildcat players.
You don't want to say I don't know. I just want to kill them, really. Just beat them up real good. I mean, it's been a long time since Waterford's been on top, so we want to put it to them this year.
I'm ready to go. Our team's ready to go. Everyone's excited. No one's afraid. Ready to win.
Coach McCutcheon emphasizes to his players to seize the moment because of the uncertainty of playing a full season.
We never know when it's going to end. Obviously, we never know when it's going to end, so our kids are playing extremely hard. They're playing hard in practice. You never know when that last snap's going to be. So we go hard. So we expect to go hard every game.
Reporting for 740 Zone, I'm Zach Paquette.
And even though we know that Fort Fry will be a very menacing opponent in Week 1, the Wildcats will be ready to go in that one. Now moving on over to the Eastern Eagles. After making the playoffs in 2019, they have bigger goals set ahead of them for the 2020 season. Micah Roth went out to talk about the dynamic running attack for the Eagles.
The Eastern Eagles returned 2 running backs who were named to the All-State team for their efforts during their junior campaign. Now it's their senior season, and they are ready to lead the Eagles to a TVC Hocking championship.
You know, we got those guys, and we've been coaching them since they've been in the 3rd grade all the way up through. They're very powerful runners, very unselfish runners. They don't care. Steve blocks for Blake blocks for Steve. Like I said, our linemen, I mean, they get off on it, and these guys have long runs or good runs. This is just the closest knit team that I've ever coached, and they all just want to do well.
The Eagles use the power and speed combo with Steve Fitzgerald and Blake Newland to keep the defense guessing.
It makes it a lot more versatile, a lot harder to stop too, because if you have a quick guy, you put fast guys on the end so he can't run sweeps. If you got a power guy, you load the box up and put as many guys in there as you can to stop them. But with us, you got one on one side, one on the other. We have misdirection. We go straight forward. It's just hard to stop.
Fitzgerald is even more of a tank after gaining 30 pounds in the offseason, but he's confident in himself heading into the 2020 season.
I'm not worried about my weight. I didn't lose any speed with it. I'm about the same speed I was last year, so I'm not mad about gaining the weight. So with the weight, I'm just fine with it.
The Eagles haven't won the TVC Hocking title since 2000, but they have their sights set on a conference championship this season.
We're taking one game at a time. If that's something we can do, that would be an extreme honor for these kids because just how good our league is. I don't think people understand that.
And we'll be watching the Eastern Eagles fight for a TVC Hocking title all season long. Now moving on, the TVC Hocking saw a little bit of a shift this season, and reporter Jacob Mata goes through which teams are in and which teams are out.
In 2019, the TVC Hocking Conference had top-tier teams in the Trimble Tomcats, Waterford Wildcats, and the Eastern Eagles. These teams will make up half of the TVC Hocking in 2020 since the Wahama Falcons, Federal Hocking Lancers, and Miller Falcons all decided to leave the Hocking. With every league game now being more important than in years past, here's how the Trimble Tomcats are preparing.
Yeah, they know, every league game's, or every game's a league game, almost something else for York. But, it's been that way in the past when we had 8 league games. Almost every game was a league game. So, these guys, they just want to go out and hit something different.
With the Waterford Wildcats in the hunt for a TVC Hocking title as well, this is what their coach had to say about the importance of league games for their team.
Not really. There's a lot more emphasis on it this year, obviously. We love playing our league games. So, no, not really. We're definitely concentrating on definitely most of the league. We start out with a non-conference the first week, and then after that, it's all league. So I think it'll be good.
League games that these teams expected to win are gone, so every game is going to matter in upcoming years in order to make the state playoffs. The 6 teams that are left are going to battle it out in the conference to try to win, because a conference title will help secure a spot for any team that wants to compete in the state playoffs. Reporting for the 740 Zone, I'm Jacob Mata.
And even without these 3 teams, we know that the TVC Hawking will still remain a tough conference. Now moving north to the MVL, where we saw a bit of a change in the divisions this year, as they have now split off into 2 divisions. But Michael Roth takes a look at how even one big rivalry is still looking strong heading into Week 1.
With just a 6-game regular season, MVL teams opted to only play conference games. With 2 divisions, Week 1 is going to be headlined by big school versus small school matchups, including New Lexington versus Sheridan, right here at Paul Culver Jr. Stadium.
It's huge, man. It's huge. They're the standard for what the MVL is about, and they've had success for decades, man. It's if you want to think you're pretty good around here, you got to compare yourself to Sheridan and what the success they've had, and that's what every team should be striving to be. They're successful year in, year out. Doesn't matter how many guys they lose, they're always a significant competitor in the state.
With the MVL splitting into 2 divisions, some classic rivalries won't continue to play year in and year out.
First reaction was honestly mixed, not in a negative way, but just in a, like I said earlier, like a full spread of emotions. Like positive, yeah, we love new challenges. We love bringing Riverview back. We love the idea that the MVL has new blood and new rivalries that can develop. But it disappoints me that I'm not going to play Crooksville every year, that I'm not going to play West End every year. You have to go back into the 60s, the last time those teams did not play each other.
The division split allows schools that have much less students to still compete for a division championship.
Like we're playing like better matchups for ourselves, and like we're not going against like the bigger schools, and like to still like have a chance to get an MVL title.
And even with these 2 divisions, we know these rivalries will always run deep in the MVL. Now sticking with this conference, the Sheridan Generals were outed in the playoffs last season, and they're looking to get right back to it this year. Reporter Alex Porter went out to take a look at the backbone of the team, the defense, led by Shea Taylor.
The word adversity doesn't begin to do justice for everything that high school athletes around the country have faced during this pandemic. But for Shea Taylor and the Sheridan Generals, the 2020 football season is just like any other, continuing to represent what it means to be the Red Rage on and off the field.
The Generals are coming off another MVL championship season after finishing with an 8-3 record. The words of head coach Paul Culver III continue to echo what his father had always told his teams: having a right mental attitude.
So in 1981, my dad gets a head coaching job out here in the middle of 4 cornfields, and the first thing that he establishes is the culture, right mental attitude. Do everything right. If you have the right attitude, if you decide how you're going to attack the day in here, then everything else typically takes care of itself.
One player that Culver continues to praise for having a right mental attitude is senior outside linebacker Shea Taylor.
Shea's a very special football player. If you're from Southeast Ohio and the MVL, you probably have heard of him. Work ethic-wise, he's always there, leading the charge, going full speed in the weight room. The other thing I love about Shea, and I mean it as a compliment, is he plays with an edge. Like, he practices hard. He practices with an attitude.
Logan Morris, a senior defensive lineman for Sheridan, had high praise for Taylor, especially when they're on the defensive side of the ball.
Having him behind me as linebacker really helps me know that he's got your back, and if you mess up, Shea's going to be there to make the play.
Taylor received MVL Linebacker of the Year honors last season, but with fewer games to play in his final year as a General, his mindset is a little different.
Being normal that we have 10, it makes that much more important and that much more precious. Each game we have, and just come out with a different mentality of this is the last ride, we got to go out with it.
And Taylor has some big goals to achieve in his final season in representing the Red Rage.
I'd say the biggest thing is to obviously win a state championship. On top of that is win the MVL. On top of that is to definitely beat Tri-Valley.
Sheridan is hoping to get their season off on the right foot when they face New Lexington at home in Week 1. And Shea Taylor will look to continue where he left off last season. Reporting for 740 Zone, I'm Alex Porter.
The Generals will look to use that defense to get right back into the playoffs. Now, speaking of a team that always seems to have postseason aspirations, the Wheelersburg Pirates are looking to do it differently this year, though. Without their fans, they're cheering them on every game. Reporter Ryan Kincaid goes out and talks to some team captains about how these fanless games will play out.
In the town of Wheelersburg, Ohio,
It doesn't get much bigger than Pirates football. This year, the Burg will have to play to win every game in search of a state championship.
The fans have always been like our 12th man for us on the field, but not having them this year is going to be different, but we're going to make the best of what we got.
In the past, Burg teams have really fed off the energy of the fans and how loud the stadium gets, and usually we're used to a packed stadium, but now we just got to feed off our own energy, and as of right now, we're doing the best we possibly can be.
The seniors on this year's varsity team were freshmen when the Pirates last won a state title in 2017, an accomplishment the senior class hopes to repeat.
I mean, coming in as freshmen, just sitting here practicing, going on the sidelines on Friday nights, not really playing, but watching those guys 4 years older than us dominating on the field every night. We go 15-0, and obviously this year we couldn't go 15-0, but the goal is to go as far as we can, and it'd just be awesome to win another ring.
But regardless of how the season turns out, the kids have their mind set on what's in front of them.
We're really excited. Going to make the best of each opportunity we get this year. Just ready to play.
Making our own energy. We might not have fans, so we're bringing our own energy.
Obviously, you want to go to Canton, but our team goal at the beginning of the season, Coach Wilbur comes in and talks to us and says, we want to win the conference. And after we win the conference, we want in the region. After the region, it's the state. So yes, obviously we want to win state, but our team goal is always to win the conference first. And that's my personal goal as well, win conference, get the job done.
With a condensed, challenging schedule ahead of them and ambitions of a trip to Canton, the Wheelersburg Pirates are ready to play hard and win games.
I'm here to make memories. I'm here to win games. That's all I
got to say. The Pirates will start their season against the Chillicothe Cavaliers. Now heading over to one of the best teams in the state of Ohio, the Ironton Tigers were fighting for that state title last year, though they didn't quite reach that goal. Reporter Ryan Kincaid catches up with them to see how they're preparing for another run at that championship.
Coming off an appearance in the 2019 state finals, the Fighting Tigers of Ironton have been hard at work to realize their ultimate dream, a state championship.
Yeah, I think that's the expectation every year. If it's not, you're probably doing the wrong thing. You probably shouldn't be coaching. I think that's the goal every year. That's what we want to reach for, and that's what we strive for, and that's what we preach to our kids all the time. So it gives them something attainable to be working towards.
Hopefully we get back to the state championship and actually finish the job this year. We fell short, which is heartbreaking. It left a little, bittersweet taste in our mouth. So we want to get back this year.
With the freshman on the far end, social distancing this way.
While the coronavirus pandemic has made practicing safely difficult, Ironton is confident they have the pieces necessary to go all the way to Canton.
We lost a lot of key guys, but I think even though we did lose a lot of key guys, we have a lot of guys coming back and a lot of people filling in those spots. So I think we have a great shot going back this year and winning.
We got guys all across the board that are playing great. Honestly, we go about 3 or 4 deep in every position right now. They're playing at a very, very high level.
With a condensed schedule ahead of them, an important marquee rivalry game has been bumped up to Week 1, with its roots dating back to NFL rivalries between two river towns.
I think it's definitely a rivalry game. That's at Week 1 at Portsmouth. So it's the second oldest rivalry in the state, and it's going to be live, and our kids are excited.
That's a huge game. Growing up around here, it's the second biggest rivalry in the state of Ohio. Just growing up around here, you want to play in that game. You want to be in that atmosphere, and it is one of our trophy games. So just being able to play in that game and feel the environment of the fans and everything, and all the tension around it is just amazing.
They're doing great. They're just ready to play. They're happy they got a season, and they're just ready to get after it.
It ain't a scrimmage. It ain't nothing. It's a game. You set the statement for how 2020 is going to go for the Ironton Fighting Tigers. Okay? Yes, sir.
Ironton will be a very exciting team to cover throughout the season. Now moving over to the Logan Chieftains, who are an independent team in the state of Ohio, which made it very tough when OHSAA cut the schedule from 10 games to 6 games coming into the season. Reporter Claire Geary was out with the Chieftains to figure out how they tackled this tough situation.
The Logan Chieftains had a curveball thrown at them when the independent team had to create a 6-game schedule for the 2020 season. With the typical season lasting until the beginning of November, Athletic Director Teresa Schultes had a challenge on her hands.
Like you said, independent team, it became immediately, that was going to be a challenge for us.
As soon as we got the notice on late Friday afternoon, I immediately started contacting the schools we were supposed to play, knowing all their conferences and leagues were going to have meetings, where that left us.
The Logan Chieftains not only had to recreate the schedule, but to create something that was similar to their original plan as well.
The new schedule was created over the course of 5 days through networking with other local school districts such as Sheridan, Warren, and Meigs, all schools that were featured during the standard 10-game season. But the scheduled games against teams like Athens and Tri-Valley were put on hold for this year. Regardless, Teresa says they have a tough schedule ahead of them.
We don't have a lot of traveling. We have the teams we lost, we've replaced with very competitive teams. So it's a very good schedule for us.
Reporting from Logan, Ohio for the 740 Zone, my name is Claire Geary.
Logan will be looking to bounce back after posting a tough 4-6 record a season ago. That'll do it for us here from the 740 Zone. Thank you to all the reporters who went out and got the stories from these schools for our preview week. We will be out in full force in the 740 for week 1 of matchups coming up. We'll see you next week.